Well, hello. My name is Matt Fradd. This is our Victory channel. This channel exists to help people fight pornography and find freedom from the wounds it's inflicted. So if this sounds like the sort of channel you think you need, or the sort of channel you're glad exists, please help us by subscribing and clicking the bell button right now. Today, I want to talk about how to have or how to implement a digital detox right after I told you to subscribe to the channel. Gosh. And how that could be beneficial to you in your combating pornography and just conducive to a more beautiful life. I'll also offer some practical ways that you can begin to do this. So if you're maybe afraid that you just don't have the kind of job that would allow you to have a digital detox, I'm gonna give like an intense way of doing it, a medium way of doing it, and maybe just, I don't know, some beginning steps. A few years ago, I found myself completely overwhelmed, and I knew it had to do with the internet. I would come home from work and I'd want to spend time with my kids and my wife. I would want to unplug, but I found that it seemed like I was unable to do it. I'd be playing Legos with my boy and thinking, I wonder what people are thinking about that tweet I just sent out. Or I wonder if somebody's emailed me. And it would interfere with a leisurely home life that I really wanted for me and for my family. And so I started giving away my phone and laptop, which were the only two ways that I could access the internet. On the weekends, I'd take him to a friend's house in a bag, give it to him. His name was Jerome. If you're watching, what's up, Jerome? And I'd say, don't give this back to me until Monday. And if I try to take it back, I need you to make fun of me, right? Be merciless. And I'd go home. And I remember one day I was backing out of the driveway and I just got this impulse to send a tweet. Talk about being maybe addicted to the phone. I grabbed my pocket and realized, oh, that's right, I'm backing out of the driveway. I just gave it, that's cool. And I went home, and you know, the first little bit was really difficult. The first few hours were really difficult. I wanted to watch a show, I wanted to watch some YouTube video, I wanted to send a tweet, I wanted to email somebody, or I would think about something that was really important. Oh, I just need to quickly send this one thing. And I couldn't do it. And so it was difficult. It was kind of anxiety inducing. But as the hours elapsed, I started to feel calm. And I started to experience what we all experienced, hopefully, as children, namely long days, long leisurely days. And I just loved it. And I thought, what if I could give up the internet for an entire month? So about 4 years ago, I did a ton of work in July. I got everything set up online, because this is where I work, right? YouTube, essentially. And set my vacation responder, had people producing social media content and things for me for that month. And then I did it. I pulled the plug. I gave my phone to my wife. She changed the password because I'm smart enough to know that I'm dumb, right? I knew that if I was just to put my phone in my top drawer and say I'm not going to touch it for a month, that wouldn't work. It's like an alcoholic saying, I'm going to just like leave these bottles of whiskey lying around, but I'm not going to drink them because willpower or something. No, that would be a bad idea. So I had my wife change the password, I got rid of my laptop, and then for that month, I didn't touch a keyboard. I didn't look at a phone. I didn't answer a text message. I didn't go on social media. This is one of the great things about having a studio right by a busy street. I don't know if you heard that or not. It was a car that nearly crashed. Anyway, point is, I absolutely loved it. I chose a book to read. I came up with a reading plan for the entire month. It was The Brothers Karamazov, and I finished it in like 20 days. And I just loved it, and it was terrific. And I started to realize that for many of us who are tempted to look at pornography or find that we are going back to porn again and again and again, that a digital detox might be just what we need. By a digital detox, I am talking about distancing yourself from the internet, from social media, from email, as much as you can. All right, I want to share an acronym that comes out of recovery circles. It's BLASTED: bored, lonely, angry, stressed, tired, empty, and detached. All right, so the idea here is if you are feeling one of these things, you are in a position, you're in a dangerous position to be triggered by something that will then lead to consuming pornography. And so if you're somebody who's trying to overcome pornography right now, whenever you find, man, I'm just bored, right? Or I'm lonely, or I'm just angry or anxious, or I'm stressed out, or I'm just exhausted, had a bad night's sleep, or if I just feel empty, my life just feels meaningless, or if you're feeling disconnected, that is a time to be on guard. And so what I want to suggest, though, is that as good as the internet is, right, it's enabling you and I to have this, what is this? Is it an experience? I guess it's a very different experience. I'm not looking at you, but you're benefiting presumably from this content. You benefit from things that take place online. My parents are in Australia. I live in America. We FaceTime with them, and that's a lovely experience that we wouldn't otherwise have. However, I do think that the internet can contribute to this acronym. All right, so let's just kind of go through these one by one. Bored. Now, at first you think, maybe the internet is the remedy for boredom. How can I possibly be bored when I have all of these things at the click of a button? And in a way, it does kill boredom, but in a way it doesn't. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, we'd go to the video store, buy a video, go home, put it in, fast forward through all the commercials, watch it, and there was really no other option. I mean, we were kind of committed to this video. But I don't know about you, I've had the experience where I'll open up Amazon Prime or Netflix and I'll start watching something and I get bored with it and I go watch something else and I go watch something else. And I find myself bored even though I have all of these things at my disposal, right? How many times have you opened up YouTube and you're just like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? So I think that the internet does contribute to boredom. Secondly, and by the way, I'm not saying that boredom is a bad thing. Part of the reason for a digital detox is to be alone with ourselves and to experience that and to deal with that feeling in a healthy and appropriate way. Secondly, blasted, following this acronym, we have lonely. I absolutely think it's the case that the internet can contribute to a feeling of loneliness. For all of our talk of social media and online communities, I do think that the internet drives a lot of our loneliness, especially for those of us who are using the internet compulsively. I mean, how many people go home from their work and they just open up their phone? They're no longer engaging in the family the way that they should, the way that maybe they want, because it's just easier to open up a video or to scroll through social media. And in the moment, we maybe don't realize that we're feeling lonely, but we're not engaging in interpersonal relationships in a meaningful way. And the internet is just a band-aid for that at best, but it's not going to work. And I think it does contribute to loneliness. All right, the third one is feeling anger or being anxious. What do you think? Have you ever found yourself on Twitter or listening to a political podcast and found yourself feeling both angry and anxious? I think for many people, certainly in the United States, we consume political podcasts and video clips daily. And these aren't usually peaceful experiences. They contribute to us feeling angry and anxious about the state of things. The other thing I'll say about anxious, or feeling anxious, is I think this thing here, this phone, is both the contributor to, but also a way of relieving our anxiety. Right? How does it relieve our anxiety? Well, I think it relieves it in a superficial way. Maybe I'm standing in line at the coffee shop and don't know what to do with myself or who to look at or whether I should start up a conversation. So if I pull out my phone, I'm now doing something, and that's good or something. All right, so it does relieve our anxiety. You get a text message from someone you love, they say something kind to you, they encourage you, something like that. But it's also the cause of our anxiety. You know, when I was a kid, if you wanted to get a hold of me, and how old am I? 30, I'm 39 next month. If you wanted to get a hold of me in Australia, you had 3 and only 3 ways to do that. You could call the phone that was bolted to my wall, which didn't have an answering machine. You could, what's the other option? You could write me a letter and post it to me, or you could literally physically come and find me. So if I wasn't at home, maybe go up to the shops and see if I was there. I can't think of another way to get a hold. Those were the 3 ways. Today, how many ways, how many avenues can people get a hold of you? Phone call, text message, direct message on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I mean, there seems to be an almost unlimited amount of ways that people can get a hold of you. And that causes anxiety because you're continually in this, like, I've got to respond, I've got to respond, I've got to respond kind of mode. So I think absolutely technology can cause anger and us being anxious. All right, so the next letter on the acronym is S, and this stands for stressed. I feel stressed. All right, if I feel like I've got to continually respond to people, and now they have this feature on the phone where it'll tell you whether someone or not has read your message. Okay, well now you feel even more obligated to respond right away because this person knows that I just read their message. Word to the wise, you can turn that off in settings, and I would highly recommend that you do that. But we live in this anxiety and we feel stressed out. Just the amount of options that the internet presents us, the amount of people requesting things from us over email or whatever else causes stress. The next one is tired. How does the internet contribute to us feeling tired? Well, you already know. Have you had this experience? I'm a little embarrassed to say that I have because I don't know how universal it is. I have to think that I'm not that special, and so many people have had this experience. I remember there was one particular night I was out giving a talk at this university, and I came back and I was tired, and I just wanted to relax. You know, everyone wants to relax when they feel tired. So I opened up my computer, and I think I was watching something stupid on Netflix at the time, The Office back in the day. And while I was watching The Office, I think I opened up a different screen and I was looking at my tweets and what other people had tweeted. And while I was doing that, right, so I'm not watching The Office, I'm listening to The Office, watching Twitter, and I'm getting a text message. And I just think to myself, this is really no way to live. But it's how many of us do live. And if you've had that experience, what happens when you shut the laptop lid or put your phone away? Do you feel rejuvenated? You know, do I feel recreated? That's where the word recreation comes from, right? To be recreated. No, I don't. I've just spent the past several minutes numbing out, doing what I thought would bring me rest, but I end up exhausted. And often, because of the whatever they talk about, the blue light coming off the screen, maybe I don't sleep as well. I wake up tired. I think this is true of podcasts as well. And this is weird, me saying this. I know I run a podcast, but it might be a good idea that you stop listening to my podcasts. It might be a good idea that you stop listening to all podcasts. I think something really important is taking place when we walk about the house with our own thoughts in our head, going where they will. I have to think there's got to be some negative consequence of continually pumping somebody else's thoughts into my head. Have you had that experience where you think, well, I got to do the dishes, so what podcast will I listen to? I have, but why do I need that? Why can't I just walk around the house and let my thoughts go where they will and have this internal dialogue, this rich interior life? I think the internet can rob us of that. I think that's very clear. So it makes us tired, you know? Finally, well, next one is empty, right? So again, we're going through the blasted acronym, and so E stands for empty, where you just sort of feel like you've wasted your day. That's one feeling I've often had, where I'll be online for a few hours and I'll share, I'm like, what am I doing? Kind of what I just shared a moment ago. But this is no way to live my life. Here's what this particular counseling website has to say about this. The sex addict, and you might not consider yourself that, but if you're somebody who goes to pornography, masturbates, acts out sexually, this can apply in some sense. The sex addict fills himself with empty relationships, right? And we might add to that in regards to the digital world, empty experiences, yeah? TikTok, oh for goodness sake, get off that thing. That will never fulfill what it promises, right? It doesn't make me whole. Therefore, the feeling of being empty can trigger the recovering sex addict to think about pursuing sex. You can see how all of these things lead us to want to medicate with that thing that we've become accustomed to use for our medication, namely pornography. So I do think that the internet can give us this feeling of emptiness. Finally, detached or disconnected. Now, I want to share a word with you which you're probably familiar with, dissociation. What is dissociating? It's a mental process of disconnecting with one's thoughts, feelings, memories, or sense of identity. Now, I looked this up. The first symptom that came up of dissociative disorder is feeling disconnected from yourself and the world around you. Isn't that what the internet's intended for, in a way? I mean, or at least isn't that the reason we find ourselves always online? We want to disconnect from ourselves. We want to disconnect from the world around us. We dissociate. And one of the things that happens when you dissociate is, like I said earlier, you're sort of just numbing out. You ever find yourself in what some people call a death scroll, where you're just scrolling through Facebook, scrolling through YouTube. You've completely forgotten why you're there. I guess it's giving you little dopamine hits, and so you continue, but at the end of it, you just feel exhausted. So I absolutely think the internet can contribute to dissociation, right? So, and just real quickly, dissociating is very different to rest. Rest is good. Dissociating is bad. Dissociating might look like rest, but it's not. We have to get that clear. If we're stressed, if we're lonely, if we're bored, if we're angry, if we're sad, if we're tired, if we feel empty, we might need rest. We might need to interact with people who love us. We might need to engage in meaningful conversation with people we care about. But numbing out online is an altogether different thing. So, you might not agree with me. You might be watching this and thinking, I have no idea what you're talking about. I love the internet. I don't think it contributes to any of those things. I'm skeptical, I'll be honest, I'm skeptical. But let's say there is such a person. Good for you. Don't do anything different then. But if you can sympathize with what I've shared here today, maybe you'll see why I think you should consider taking a digital detox. Now, how might you do that? I really do think that the first thing you should realize is what I said earlier, be smart enough to know where you're stupid, right? Jordan Peterson has this great line, what's something I could do that I actually would do that would make my life better, right? Notice he didn't say, what's something I can do that would make my life better? Because there's all sorts of things you could do, but you won't. Why? I don't know. Maybe you're a coward. Maybe you're lazy. Maybe you have too many responsibilities and just don't have the time to do certain things. So what's something you could do that you actually would do that would make your life better, you know? Saying something like, well, I'll just get off the internet for a day, maybe that's something you should do, but can you do it? Well, maybe you can't do it unless you're, again, smart enough to know where you're stupid and be proactive. Give your phone away for the weekend. I would recommend doing that. On Friday night, shut down the internet, give away your phone, give away your computer, and just see what it's like to take a weekend offline. And if you are really in a place where that's impossible, that should set off massive alarm bells. You can't take a weekend off the internet? Well, it's no wonder you're so stressed out, lonely, tired. Are you kidding me? Now, look, I understand we live in the century in which we live. We perhaps work at jobs where people feel like they can get a hold of us any time, whether it's day or night or on the weekend. But maybe this is where we've got to put up some boundaries and say, I'm not going to be responding to work texts or work emails. And so putting your phone away from the weekend and experience that. Now, if that's too much for you, here's what I would recommend doing. So I was using a dumb phone for a while. The dumb phone was connected to a wallet like this one, and somebody stole it. And so I went back to an iPhone. I was a little disappointed in myself for doing that, but I've blocked the internet. And how did I do that? Well, in settings, there's a way for you to block all websites, to block the App Store. And so I gave it to my wife. I said, set up a password. It's a different password to the one you need to open up your phone. And then my wife was able to block the App Store, and then I helped her block all the internet. And then I only now have the apps that I need for work. So I use Slack. I use some other things. I'm on Locals, which is my kind of online community of folks that I chat with regularly. I have a prayer app called Hallow, but I cannot get online. Somebody sends me a link, I can't open it. There's no way around it. Like maybe Apple's settings will change and I'll have to refigure some things or reconfigure some things. But as of now, I can't get online. It's frustrating, But I'm saying to you, there are ways that you can detach from the internet, and this might be one way. What if you just deleted all of your social media apps and only used, maybe use Covenant Eyes? I would hope you did. Maybe use the Covenant Eyes app to search online, but then block all your social media apps and then block the App Store so you can't re-download them. I think your life would be a lot better if you did something like that. People have suggested things to me like, well, what if you just leave your phone plugged in the kitchen? Fair enough. I'm skeptical that we have the sort of self-control that we would like to think we have. I think for many of us, we start off with that idea and then realize that clunky alarm clocks are too difficult, and so we end up bringing our phone into our bedroom. But that's a way. I mean, you could do that. You could get your phone, plug it in downstairs, refuse to bring it into your bedroom. So many things you could do. You could remove the TV. You could beat it with a baseball bat until it was completely destroyed. Don't give it away. Don't impose that sort of thing on anybody else. Destroy it. Set it on fire. Something fun. I don't know. Maybe don't set it on fire. But you could break your TV and throw it in the bin and learn what it's like to sit alone with yourself. Or not. I mean, you can do what you want. I'd like to invite you, if you've watched this far into the video, you're obviously committed to this topic. In the comments below, tell us how you have sought to distance yourself from the internet, what your experience was of that, and if you have any ideas that I haven't given to you, put them below. How could we distance ourselves from the internet world? And again, the whole point of distancing ourselves from the internet, the whole point of a digital detox isn't so that I can therefore sit and do nothing, although that's an option and maybe a good one, but it's also that I can engage and develop more fruitful, beautiful relationships with those around me. I really think if you're somebody who looks at porn compulsively and you want to be free of it, going on a digital detox could be one of the best things you could decide to do. Well, thank you very much. I hope that was a help. If you haven't yet subscribed, do subscribe, even if you're about to take a digital detox, because I do think that the content we're putting out here matters and is helpful to people. I'll also say this. The same anonymity that we find online that leads many of us to pornography can also work the other way around. This anonymity, right? Like, I don't know you, I can't actually see you. People around you don't know that you're watching this necessarily. You can consume this content in an anonymous way in order to get help. Well, what if you were brave enough to share this video on social media? And I'm really not saying that just so that this video does better. I mean, I want it to do better because I think it'll help people, but what if you shared this and said, hey, if anyone's struggling with pornography, I know this is a big deal right now, maybe this would help you. You don't have to incriminate yourself. Maybe you don't even look at pornography, but this could be a benefit to people. And just to prove that this is not just about making my video more popular, share something else. Share something from Fight the New Drug. Share something from Covenant Eyes. Share something from Your Brain on Porn that you think will really help people, As meaningless and as empty as social media can make us feel and can actually be in reality, maybe there's someone who will see something pop up on your feed and it won't be an angry tweet or it won't be some post to some political article. It'll just be about, hey, if you want to live a more beautiful life and be free of porn, you might check this out. God bless. Chat with you next time.